Okay, so we've got our file from Total Media Extreme. Okay, again, this is if you're using a regular Hdpvr. And I've loaded it into the Project Media Manager here for Sony Vegas. And we're going to drop it down onto the timeline. And it'll take a second and then I'll pop in there. And you can see the two tracks. Obviously you have the video track and then you have the audio track down here. So if I just render this out, we're going to set our stops. Let's find a little piece of action. And here we go. So we're going to put a marker there and a marker there. And we're going to render that little chunk and then we're going to take a look and see what that looks like. So we'll set the selectors there. We're going to render that and we're going to do we'll do WMV because they process at the same time as they upload on YouTube, which is a nice feature. Cuts down on your upload times. So we'll make a new folder for this and alright, so this is going to be our baseline, our raw footage. Raw gameplay Hdpvr. So we'll hit the button. It's going to render this out. Shouldn't take very long because this is just a short little clip. And then we'll take a look at it and see what it looks like as soon as it's done rendering here. You'll see that little chunk and you can see the sample, the quality, and then we'll talk about what we need to do to make it a little better and make it look a little nicer. Okay, so as you can see, even by the still shot in the preview window, it looks a little blurry. And the way we take care of that is the first thing we do when we drop these tracks into Vegas is we right click on them, go to properties, and click this button here. It says disable resample. And this is like one of the most important things you can possibly do to make your videos look just 10 times better. So click that button and then hit OK. And instantly this gets sharper, right? So let's render that out and then we'll take a look and see what it looks like now that we've done this. And you can see the difference between this and when the resample is not disabled. So we'll hit the render button. So we'll put disable sample. And we render. And then we'll be good to go. So as you just saw from the previous clip, there's a big difference between turning off the resample and leaving it on. It makes it a much cleaner, crisper looking video. Okay, so now there's a couple more things that we can do to this video to make it just look darn near game quality. What we're going to do is over here, this tab here for video effects, we're going to go down towards the bottom and we're going to grab the one that says sharpen. And we're going to grab the reset to none. There's some presets here and they're good for miscellaneous things, but what we want to do is set our own level and then you can save it as your own preset. So we're going to grab reset to none and just drag this down onto the timeline. Now you're going to see this little green icon here, which basically means there's video effects on this track now. Now even just putting a little bit on, you can see makes a little bit of a difference. What I'm going to do with the Hauppauge, I usually like to run about 0.125 or so, and that usually is enough to bring the sharpen up. It makes all the letters and the wording on the video a little sharper. Here, if we take this off, you can see how everything gets just a little more dull. Brings everything into a little more focus. But too much sharpen and you run into almost a cartoonish effect. So we don't want that. We want to run at about 0.125. And if you want to save this as your own template, what you can do is hit this save button over here where it says save preset. Give it a name. Like I can call this Hdpvr sharpen. And then hit save. And every time I want to put that on there, all I have to do is bring up that one and it'll be automatically set, so I don't have to type in the number every single time. So let's take a look at that and then we will come back and see what that looks like in comparison to what we just did. So we're going to go sharpen 0.125. We'll render that and come back and take a look at what it looks like. Okay, so you've seen how it creates a little bit of a sharper effect, makes everything a little more crisp. Now color-wise, it's decent, but it could be a little better. And there are all kinds of schools of thought on how to do color correction. A lot of guys use the color corrector secondary. If you just look at what the options that are there, there's so many different numbers and sliders to plug in there. And it can become quite a mess of trying to get this set up and going. So I'm going to show you which, to me, after having gone through this particular VFX and a couple other ones, the one that I've found to be the quickest and simplest and still get the biggest bang for your buck. So we're going to remove that. We're going to go back down to the S's and we're going to go to saturation adjust. Again, we're going to grab reset to none. And again, you can always save this as a template so you don't have to worry about it. Or preset, I guess is the best way to say it. And literally this is all I do. Okay, so I grab the high and move it all the way over. Alright, no change just yet. Here's where the change comes in. You grab the low and you start sliding it over. And what you're going to notice is the yellows and the greens are going to start to change. And we're going to move it all the way over, and you can see how on the gun here the auto looks good in my eyes. Like I can see that yellow cab there. Let's see, let's pull this up if we can get that yellow cab again. Oh, where'd you go, yellow cab? There we go. You can see how it's going to pop more, or it's going to get dimmer. So yeah, about 0.48 is where I was, and I think that's good. That's good right there. Okay, so we're going to render this clip, see what that looks like in comparison, and then we're going to come back for one last adjustment that I think it's one of those things that if you once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. So we'll do this and we'll come right back. Okay, now there's one last thing we have to do. At the top and on the right hand side of the video, you can see these black lines. Now, this is something you're not going to be able to unsee. When you watch somebody else's video, you're going to see these on here, and it plays back on YouTube this way. For whatever reason, the Hauppauge captures video this way, and it's really easy to take care of, but most people don't really take the time to do it. It's just a quick fix that makes sure you maximize the video space on YouTube, but people leave it on there for whatever reason. So, here's how we're going to handle that. We're going to go over, and over here on the left side, I'm going to click this button that says track motion, and it's going to bring up this little window right here. And what we're going to wind up doing is the size here, we're going to just start slowly increasing this. And you can see it starts to go away, and eventually it'll just pop right off. Now, it says it's 1290 by 725, so now you're going to tell me it's not really 1280 by 720, and that's true. But the bottom line is it'll render down to 1280 by 720, and that's really what we want, because we want to see the fully rendered product. How it captures and all that sort of thing, that's one thing, but this is really the important thing, is to get this taken out of there, and then we'll render that and see what it looks like with a finished product. So we're going to go ahead and render it. We'll be back in just a minute and we'll take a look at that. So that's the cropping there, and I'll be right back. So the last phase is rendering this final product out now that we've got everything done. And you've seen me, you could just go up to File, Render As, and then just name it and hit the button. What I've done is I'm rendering into Windows Media Format, WMV, for the simple reason that it uploads and processes at the same time when YouTube is uploading. There are better formats that are a little higher resolution as far as the end product goes, but you have to remember the encoders for YouTube always degrade the quality of the video that you're going to put up. So never ever get dismayed by the fact that you put up an awesome looking video and for whatever reason YouTube made it look like a little less awesome. That's more than common. So if you're going to use WMV, that's obviously one of the settings. Go to WMV, and what I've done is essentially I've picked the 6 megabits HD 720 30p, which is 30 frames a second video. No sense in rendering it higher than 30 frames a second because that's all that YouTube is capable of doing. Now if you hit the custom button, what you'll see here is a bunch of info about the audio, and pretty much it's all by default pretty much fine. When you go to video rendering settings, just change that to best. That's under the project tab, and then your video here, you can change the smoothness, the image size here, you can change it to different high def formats, but 1280 by 720 is what you want, and that's pretty much good to go. The other option you have is you can move it to an MP4. So a main concept AVC / AAC MP4. So you click that, and I've got a preset already, so let's bring that up here real quick and you can take a look and see what that looks like. Again, we're going to go with a width of 1280 and a height of 720 because we want to be in 720p. Frame rate, I know it says 29.97 and that's not quite 30, but that's really what you see on TV and that sort of thing. It all runs on NTSC, which is 30 frames a second. So we're going to put it there. Field order, I go down with a progressive scan. And then over here, now this is where you get into some debate with some people on the MP4 format. People are going to say, well, you recorded in 13.5 megabits per second, so maybe you should render that way too. Which isn't really bad logic. I mean, you captured at that rate, you might as well render at that rate. The problem is it's going to make a massive file, not massive, but a good sized file, and it's also going to be taking up processor time. So what you have to do is you can start at 13.5 and work your way down from there to the point where all of a sudden the quality degrades too much, or you can just leave it right there, put it at a constant bit rate, and hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and use WMV because that's how my system is set up. Title this Final Clip. We're going to render it, we'll pop it in, and then you can take a look. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a process to get this set up, but once you do, it really only takes 5 minutes tops to put all these things in place, make your gameplay look as good as it possibly can. Everything else after that, it's up to you. So hope you enjoyed the tutorial and hope you're able to learn something. Let us know if you have any questions down in the comments and we'll answer them as best we can. Thanks.